Hello, everybody, and welcome into a special edition of Texas at the Voice of College Football. I really appreciate you guys joining me. Let's jump right into this. Where does Arch Manning fit in the rankings of SEC quarterbacks? So I went through 1 through 16 here, made my list, decided where I think he fit in. Obviously, there's an argument, there's a debate. Drop yours in the comment section down below. Number one for me, though, guys, DJ Lagway. I think DJ Lagway is a special player. I think he's the type of guy that's going to get picked in the top 10 in the NFL draft with a combination of speed, power, and then also the ability to throw the football. And he's more of a pocket passer, honestly. And there's a couple throws that I saw last year that I saw him make that there's very few quarterbacks in the country that can make, and honestly, very few quarterbacks at the NFL level can make. A couple come to mind versus LSU, running out to the right, throwing it on a rope to the right sideline was one of the most beautiful throws I've seen all year. I tweeted out soon after that. He's a top 10 pick whenever he decides to come out. The numbers right now aren't great, 59.5% completion, but 10 yards per attempt, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Got to clean up the interceptions a little bit. But the 10 yards per attempt, if he keeps that, that's elite stuff. I believe Jaden Daniels averaged like 11.1 yards per attempt his Heisman season. So that is a step back, but it's still elite stuff from DJ Lagway. Bring the interceptions down, bring up the completion percentage to about 64, 65 this year, and we are cooking, guys. In my opinion, he is the number one quarterback in the SEC. And I think there's a debate that he's the number one quarterback in the country. I think there's that real debate because remember, you have to look at past production, intangibles, tools, stuff like that to make this list. You can't just go off past production. If it's past production, this guy's like the ninth best quarterback in the SEC, and our eyes tell us that is not the case. Number two is Lenora Sellers. I love Lenora Sellers. I thought he got a lot better this year with South Carolina. And the thing is, he played behind an absolutely dreadful offensive line. They were either the worst offensive line in the country or second worst offensive line in the country. I forget, but sack rate for most of the year, it was the worst offensive line in the country. I think it elevated. And the only reason it wasn't even worse percentage wise is because of him. This guy's like a fullback playing quarterback, and he completed 65% of his passes on 8.5 yards per attempt. That's really good. Anything over 7.5 yards per attempt is good. So he's at 8.5, a whole yard ahead of that's really good. He also added 674 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. Next year, I'm expecting 30 plus total touchdowns from this guy. He already had 25 last year. I think you're going to get 30 plus total. I think you're going to get a possibility of 2,500 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing, which is phenomenal. They have a lot of weapons coming back, including Nick Harbor. I think Lenora Sellers is in line for a Heisman-like campaign next year for South Carolina. And those are the only two guys I'm going to take over Arch Manning. I have Arch Manning at number 3. Arch Manning is a special player. And after number 4, in my opinion, I think there's a group. I think the top 4 are my A tier group, and you can move around whatever way you decide. Arch Manning is number 3, 67.8% completion, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 10.4 yards per attempt. That is an elite number. This guy is going to take risks with the football. We've seen that as a Texas fan. I know that. But the reward that he's going to get from doing that, I think, is super high because he's got special arm talent. He's a special athlete as well. I think he's going to be phenomenal next year. I'm expecting 30 to 35 total touchdowns. You're probably going to have 10 to 12 interceptions, maybe even more than that. I could see even climb up to 15 because he is a gunslinger. But this guy is special. And again, top 10 capability at the quarterback position. And that's where I see in my group A tier. This is like high first round pick, and that is Garrett Nussmeier rounding it out. I like Garrett Nussmeier. My only issue with him, 7.7 yards per attempt. That is not an elite number. That has to be better. And you had Kyron Lacey and other good wide receivers at LSU. You're going to have good wide receivers next year at LSU with Nick Anderson and those guys. So can that number get better? And then can the interceptions get better? 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I think he needs to be around the 7 to 8 mark. A lot of gunslinger in Garrett Nussmeier. He's got a really strong arm. Accuracy needs to improve just a tad, and then the yards per attempt, he needs to take more chances down the field and complete them, and not for interception. So I think those are the key things for me to see Garrett Nussmeier improve here. This is where I see a slight drop off, not a big one, but a slight drop off. I have Marcel Reed. I am very high at Marcel Reed going into next year. Really good athlete, pretty good arm, 61.3% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And that was the thing that I saw from Marcel Reed that I really liked was the decision making. I thought Marcel Reed was a fantastic decision maker for Texas A&M. I think they got him some better weapons on the outside with Kevin Concepcion and Micah Hudson. 7.8 yards per attempt for him, 543 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. I think you're going to see 7, maybe even 800 yards rushing next year. Needs to work on being able to throw the ball to the left side. We saw that in the Texas game. He does not read the left side of the field for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, but he's got to be able to read the whole field. Right now, he's only seeing about half the field, but overall, I like the intangibles and tools here. Number 6 is John Mateer, and again, this is my second tier. You can argue and debate in this tier. I think you could argue him up to 5. I really don't think you can put him any higher than that just because of the league he's coming from. Now, the numbers are astonishing. He was phenomenal. 826 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions passing, and 9 yards per attempt. That is phenomenal, phenomenal numbers from John Mateer. My question is, does that translate to the SEC? There's an argument to be made. He actually has more wide receiving talent at Washington State than he does at Oklahoma, or what he will have at Oklahoma. So that's going to be very interesting as well. But this guy is a really good athlete. He's got a good arm. I think he's going to be pretty good. I'm taking him basically as a slightly above average quarterback in the SEC. And I think he's like a top 15 quarterback in the country. I just think the SEC is pretty damn good at quarterbacks. Number 7, I have Nico. Nico has to be able to get past his first read. Last year we saw he's a one-read quarterback. He really, really, really struggled, especially in that playoff game versus Ohio State. Once that first read was taken away, he was pretty easy to stop. So he's got to be better with that. I will say I like that he uses his athleticism more. Remember, this guy's like an all-world volleyball player. So I would like to see that more. And then obviously get to your second, third read. Got a strong arm. He's pretty accurate at 63.8%, basically 64%. Those are really my only two bugaboos with Nico. Next up, I do have Gunnar Stockton. I am a lot higher on Gunnar Stockton than most. What I saw from him was a guy that improved, like from the SEC championship game to the college football playoff. He played well enough in that game to win that game. He threw for like 240 yards with 2 bombs that were dropped. If one of them's caught, we're talking about 280, 290 yards passing in that game versus Notre Dame. Now, do I think Notre Dame's defense was overrated? Yeah, but that's still very impressive in your second or first career big game start for Gunnar Stockton. He's an athlete. He's got to change up his motion a little bit. It's a little bit too much of a wind up for me. I think he can get away with it in college. He's not going to be able to get away with it if he has enough talent to get to the NFL, and probably versus high caliber competition too. He'll probably struggle, like higher caliber SEC teams like the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Texases of the world. I think he'll struggle. But overall, I'm really high on Gunnar Stockton. I think he's going to have a good year. I think the wide receivers are going to help him out. Carson Beck got a little bit too much hate because the wide receivers dropped, I think his completion percentage dropped by 7% because of that. So I think Gunnar Stockton, just on that, if they improve that half, so 3.5%, that will help out Gunnar Stockton a lot. Number 9 is Austin Simmons. I liked what I saw from him and mop-up duty in their bowl game versus Duke. I liked what I saw. I know it's just mop-up duty. And then I liked what I saw versus Georgia when he had to come in. And he had 2 touchdowns, 8.8 yards per attempt. He only has 32 attempts, but lefty. Ball comes out of his hand very cleanly. Good athlete. I like what I see from Austin Simmons. Number 10 is going to be puzzling. You could have him higher. I think you're going to see a regression of the mean for Vanderbilt. I think you're going to see a regression of the mean for Diego Pavia. I think he had a phenomenal year. I think it was a very gimmicky offense that people are going to be able to dissect in the offseason, and they're not going to be as good. So I have him at number 10, 7.7 yards per attempt. 59.4% completion percentage, so not great. 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 8 rushing touchdowns. I think you're going to see more interceptions this year, and I think you're going to see less rushing yards. I think teams know what to do now. I think he's a solid football player. I think he's a hard-nosed football player, but I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. Number 11, I have Taylon Green. What I had him ranked last year. He's good, but he's kind of injury prone. He has never really lived up to the tools. He's got a big arm. He's athletic. He's tall. He's lengthy. The ball comes out very easily. He's not super accurate, 60.4%, 8.3 yards per attempt, though. I just don't think he's lived up to the billing. We'll see if he does take that jump, seeing as it's the second year in the SEC, but you're losing your best wide receiver in Andrew Armstrong. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if they're going to have the weapons to replace that and help him out. I have him as the 11th best quarterback. Number 12 is Ty Simpson. I think Alabama fans are going to miss Jalen Milroe. I do not think Ty Simpson's that good, and I'm projecting. Could this be Keelan Russell? And honestly, I'd probably have Keelan Russell higher. Yes. Could this be Austin Mack? I'd probably have Austin Mack in the same position here. Yes, it could be. But I'm going to go with what I think right now. These are pre-spring. After spring, we'll do another list. But right now, I have Ty Simpson starting quarterback, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 16 games. I don't think he's that good. I think he's kind of got a weak arm. He's undersized. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. So we'll see what happens there. But he's my number 12 quarterback. Number 13 is actually a guy that, honestly, if he had a better team around him, I might bump him up a little bit, is Blake Shapen. He was pretty damn good last year. 68.5% completion percentage, which is really good, on 9 yards per attempt. 8 touchdowns, 1 interceptions before he got hurt. He also had 36 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I think he's a good quarterback. I just think he's stuck in a bad situation and he's injury prone. So that's why I had to drop him down here, mainly because of the injuries. He's never healthy for a full season. When he does play, he's talented, though. Number 14, I have Jackson Arnold. This guy could be number 16 at the end of the year. He could be as high as like 4 or 5, honestly. He's got the talent, but he was just on the struggle bus last year at Oklahoma. 62.6% completion percentage, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and this number is what gets you because those don't look that bad. 5.8 yards per attempt. We talked about the yards per attempt number. You'd like to be at minimum 7. 5.8 is abysmal. Now, he had some bad luck with his wide receivers getting hurt, but he just wasn't good. He didn't really comprehend the offense, what they were wanting to do with him. Maybe it was a bad fit. We'll have to see with Hugh Freeze what they do with him. Number 15, this guy, again, could be higher too. We'll see what he does. Transferring over from Penn State, Bo Prabula, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 74.3% completion percentage, 7.9 yards per attempt, 242 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. My issue with it, that is no one was preparing for this guy. He basically came in and surprised teams. They're going to prepare for him now. He's going to be the starting quarterback most likely. So how does he do in a full season as the guy? We'll have to find out. For now, he's number 15. And a guy coming back to the SEC after transferring from Texas A&M to Incarnate Word, back to Kentucky. I would have Kentucky number 16 here no matter what. If you want to put Cutter Boyley there, if you want to put Zach Calzada there, fine. Zach Calzada at our Incarnate Word put up some good numbers. 35 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 65.5% completion percentage, 7.1 yards per attempt, 332 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. He was pretty good. The problem is that is FCS competition. I don't know what he's going to do in the SEC or I kind of have an idea. I've seen him, and it wasn't very good. So if he replicates that, I feel very confident he's the worst quarterback in the SEC because he basically got benched at Texas A&M. He had that one Alabama game where he basically went Superman, won the football game, and then after that, he was terrible. I don't think he's that good. We'll have to see what happens, but I have him at number 16. So the question has been answered on my end. Please drop it in the comments. I have Arch Manning as the 3rd best quarterback in the SEC. Let me know if you agree with that, disagree with it. It's up to you guys. But number 1 ahead of him, DJ Lagway. Number 2 ahead of him, Lenora Sellers. Then right there, I have Arch Manning. So again, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe as it says down below. We have a live show off the Texas Voice of College Football channel every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I really appreciate you guys being here, and hook 'em.